Hello, everyone. Welcome to Software Testing Mentor and RCV Academy. Today, I'm here with Divya Gupta, who has been a developer into IT industry, and then she was into a different profession altogether, which was into the teaching. She was principal at one of the school. Now she wants to move back into the IT and testing as a profession. So she has been preparing for software testing, and today's interview will be focused on the 1 to 2 year level of experience for the person who wants to get into software testing. So let's welcome Divya Gupta. Hi, Divya. Welcome. How are you?
Hi, sir. I'm fine. And
So,
how are you, sir?
yeah, good. How has your day been? All good?
Yes, all good. But I'm excited for today mock interview also.
All right. Great.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Divya. Thanks for joining the call. And before we proceed further, I would like to mention that this video is getting recorded and will be posted on YouTube channel for other viewers to watch. You're fine with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. All right. So that's great, Divya. So let's get started with some of the 1 to 2 year level of software testing experience questions, and then I'll go along and provide you feedback as we go along with the question. So can you maybe let me know about your professional journey till now, how you have been started in your professional journey basically.
Yes. So, as sir, like I'm Divya Gupta, and I did graduation from Acropolis Technical Campus in those. After that, after graduation, I did CDEC course from Sunbeam Pune, uh, where I did in the field of development of mobile computing. After that, I got my first job in a Corby Private Limited, where I worked as an Android developer for 1.8 years. After that, I got married and I shifted to Silvassa, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. So there is a much more job for IT industry. So I want to do work. I don't want to sit in a home. So I want to do work. So I worked in a non-technical field where I worked as an vice principal at a school. After now, I'm going to shifting to Indore, and I'm looking for a job in a software engineering back. So I'm looking for a job in a manual testing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. So you were an Android developer, and then now you are looking for a job into software testing. Any specific reason for switching from a development background to testing?
Like so both developer and tester both are essential for developing a software, right? So right now I'm interested in a manual testing. After that, I'm surely within automation testing. In future, I will learn and I will be in automation testing.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but initial level, I will start with manual testing.
Okay. So there is, so your belief is that both the roles are essential aspect of developing or basically delivering the software, and so it doesn't matter basically where you join in it, you provide the similar sort of value to the organization, to the product that you're working on.
Yes.
That's a good answer, Divya. I would say, like, many people get stuck with these sort of logical answer that that you have come up with. You can add a few more things around the testing, because like testing is not just about, when we say manual and automation testing, it's very confusing line there. There is just testing as such, and testing you can do manual and automation is basically to enhance or to help you achieve the quality coverage in much better way and more coverage, right? But that doesn't mean that manual testing or basically testing principles that you are learning now aren't required when you are switching to the automation testing, right? So it's a tester as a whole who needs to do all of it, right? Great. Let's move on. So I'll go ahead with some of the scenario based question, Divya. So say for example, there is a website, okay, which has a registration functionality, and on that particular website you are testing the registration, functionality. So you have written certain test cases and you are executing those test cases. What sort of testing you are doing?
I'm just checking. I'm black box testing because I want to do. I want to checking the I want giving the input, and I'm also checking the output without knowing the internal thing.
Exactly.
What's going on in the back end.
Yeah, spot on. So yes, you are doing black box testing, and you're doing basically, like the functional testing. And it is a black box. So black box testing is the absolute correct answer, and that's what I was expecting, that you'll basically come up with that answer. And why? And you have also mentioned that because you're not aware of the internal working or the code that has been written behind the registration functionality, that is why it is black box testing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So on that same note, can you give some of the differences between black box and white box testing?
Sure. Okay. Let's start with black box. Like black box testing is a process in which we give the input to the software application and we check the output without knowing what internal structure are working, how internal structure are working. But in the white box testing, we give input to the software application and we also check the output. But to this, we also check the code process, how the code is working. Okay, and the black box testing is done by the tester and white box testing is done by the developer. And in the black box testing, there is no need to know the knowledge of implementation, how to implement the code. And in the white box testing, we know how to do code. We have to know the knowledge of implementation of code.
Right. Great. Some very good points. And you mentioned that black box testing is done by testers and white box is done by developers. That's true most of the cases. Is it possible that white box testing is also done by testers sometimes?
Yes, sometimes. Like in automation, we are worked as a developer as well as tester.
Right. Yeah.
Automation.
Yeah. I think like it's possible that you might be doing some white box testing, but usually it doesn't happen. Usually like black box testing testers do, and white box testing or the unit test cases, most of the time whosoever is developing will write the unit test cases. Any tools that you know of for white box testing?
Any tools?
Very commonly used, in Java, Python.
I don't know, sir.
Okay. Have you heard about JUnit?
Yes, JUnit.
Yeah. So JUnit is like one of the white box testing tool, you can say, right? It's a library that you can use to do white box testing.
Yeah.
So there are many, right? There are many unit testing tools that you can, browse around and see what all white box testing tools are. But yes, I mean, your answer is absolutely correct in terms of difference between the black box and white box. All right. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the difference between a unit and integration testing?
Okay. So unit testing, what is unit testing? I like unit. A small piece of code is known as unit. And when we check the behavior of that small piece of code, how the code is working, that is known as unit testing. And integration testing is like when two modules integrated and work properly, integrated, and we check they both are working properly or not, is known as integration testing. And unit testing is done by tester. Unit testing is done by developer, and integration testing is done by developer as well as tester.
Right. Yeah. So few things. I mean, overall it's good. Can you give me some of the examples of unit? So in unit, you mentioned that it's a smallest piece of code. Always mention that it's smallest piece of independent code that can be independently tested, right? So that independent keyword is important. Can you give me some examples of unit and integration testing?
I will. unit testing example is only login functionality. If we check only login button is the example of unit testing. When we integrated this to forget password or with the registration, that is the example of integration testing.
Right. Yes. Yes. I mean, in terms of testing, you are absolutely correct. I mean, there are so many different examples that you can give. I mean, if you want to get into very down to the method level of unit, you can go to the very granular aspect of that login functionality where you have individual methods that can be tested together, and that's how developers usually do the unit testing. But in terms of testing, yes, your example, as you as a tester will be doing that sort of testing, and then when you integrate those modules, then that is what integration testing will be in the context of software testing. That's absolutely correct. All right, let's move on. What is user acceptance testing?
Like the user acceptance testing is done by the end user or customer. Okay, when the it is the final level of testing, like final stage after the unit testing, integration testing, and system testing. We have to do user acceptance testing. Now there are two types of user acceptance testing. We have to do two types. First is alpha testing. Second is beta testing. So in the alpha testing, we check the software application in the developer side with our client. And in beta testing, we check when the software application goes live, and so it's all about beta testing.
So when the application goes live, you mean live to the wider audience or live to a specific audience or a specific set of users?
Live to real world.
Right. Okay. So usually beta testing will be a subset. Most of the time how it is done is it is a subset. It's if there is a public application, say for example Gmail, right? So Gmail is used by end users, like people like you and me use Gmail, or any of the Google application that is meant for us. So they when the beta testing phase is rolled out, it is rolled out to very specific select few users. So when they will roll out, they'll say this is in beta phase, and very select few subset or demography of users will have access to those beta features, and they'll provide their feedback, and then it is basically rolled out to the wider audience, and then that beta phase will be over, right? So beta doesn't happen when it is completely rolled out, because beta is still a product is still in testing, right? So it's, say for example, 10% of the Facebook user or Gmail users will get the beta access to any new functionality, and then when they raise the issues and there are no critical issues and things are being fixed which are raised by those 10% of people, then it is rolled out to like the wider audience. Okay, so that's how usually beta testing works. And yes, alpha testing, you were correct. So in terms of your understanding around the user acceptance testing is all good. Just a little bit clarification around how these things are managed. Okay, all right. Let's move on. So what is the importance of test planning, and why do we need to do test planning?
Test plan, the term test plan is known as, it is a document where all the testing activities we plan. Like it is done by the test leader, and test leader make a plan and verify by the test manager. And it is all about the testing activity. We know about the basic, we know all about the project, what is the software application. So there are different document activities involved in the document. First is like test plan introduction, test plan scope. We know about the scope and the objective of the test, and the exit criteria, entry criteria of the test, and suspension and reception, and function what to be tested, function not to be tested. And we also know the communication tools and test management tools, and we also know about the strategy, which level of testing we have to use. So it's all about test planning.
Right. Yeah. So overall, yes, you have explained the contents of that particular document. Things have evolved in terms of test planning with Agile coming in picture. Now, we do not make those detailed plans unless and until it is very, very necessary for the project. But test planning is important. So the key thing that you can mention here is that test plan will provide you the roadmap for the overall testing process, right? So it's basically nothing but like in any terms, like if you want to do any course or you want to usually say, for example, you're trying to find a job in software testing. If you do a proper planning, what you need to do day by day in terms of learning, applying the job, it becomes easier to achieve that goal, right? So that's in general your personal planning of succeeding in your professional career. Okay, getting the job and succeeding in the professional career. So planning in general is very necessary, and test planning is nothing different. So test planning is planning for the successful delivery of the quality product. So plan provides you the roadmap, so you can start from there, and then whatever you have mentioned in your answer, like all the key sections. So basically what you need to test, what you need to skip, right? So entry and exit criteria. So all of that gives you a clear indication what tools will be used, what sort of process will follow. So it brings everyone in the project on the same page, right? So that's where planning helps. Otherwise, things will be very scattered, right? If you don't have plan and you just say, okay, give me the build, I'll start testing. That doesn't work right like that, right? So that's the whole advantage. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. So what is the difference between test scenario and test case? You have mentioned in your resume. So all of these questions I'm just taking from your resume. So what is the difference between the test scenario and test case?
Test cases and test scenario. Test scenario is how what to be tested in the software application. And test cases is about how to test the particular functionality. Okay. And test scenario is like it is obtained by the use case. And the test case is obtained by the test scenario. Okay. And test scenario is a one-line information, and test cases are the detailed documentation about what is the steps and data, and what is the actual result, and what is the expected result, and what is the objective of the project. And for example, we are taking for example register. We are taking a login page, and there is a button register. So register is a scenario, and the test cases for that register is like to verify the first name and the last name is filled by the user correctly or not. Mobile number is correct or not. To verify the mobile number is correct or not. And we check the date of birth are not blank. So it's all about test cases and test scenarios.
Right. Yeah. So absolutely correct. Like test scenario is high level, one liner, and when you get a functionality. So usually when you get a functionality to test, if you write the high level test scenario, it gives you a broad understanding about the functionality when you read the user story or the requirement, and then when you write the test scenario, you come up with the scenarios that could be covered to make sure the quality of that particular module or the application. So you write those scenarios, and then you elaborate, and those elaborated document for those scenarios is the test case. So absolutely correct. All right. And so the next thing around this test cases itself. So what is a test execution, and when do you do the execution, and why do you do it?
Okay, all about test execution. Okay. So when we make the test cases, we execute that test cases and record the result. What the result is, pass or fail. And there are steps to execute. There are steps to follow. We have to follow in the terms of test execution. First is verify the environment readiness, ready or not. Second, we select one test case from the multiple test cases. After that, we execute that test cases. After that, we execute that test cases and log the result. Log the result that when the test cases status got passed.
So what exactly do you do in the execution? When we say execute a test case, what you do?
We check the result. We track the result. Like test cases are to verify the test cases are completed or not. Like in terms of functionality.
How do you verify that?
By the execution cycle.
Right, execution cycle is okay. So like you'll create the cycle in your tool to execute those test cases. But when we say execute the test, what usually a tester does, say I'll say to you, Divya, go ahead and execute the login module test cases. What you will do?
I will do there are five test cases written. So you have to enter valid username and valid password. So I enter the valid username and valid password and execute first test case. And second is invalid user and invalid password. So I execute that test case and check the result. What is the result?
Right. Yes. So in execution, what tester will do is, so basically you will launch the application and you will actually perform the actions that have been documented in the test case, right? That's the execution. When we say execution, it is you launch the application, whether it's desktop or web application, whatever, and then you will perform the steps that you have elaborated into your test case. And that's what execution is. And test execution, then you mentioned about the test cycle. So yes, you will create different test cycles depending on different builds that you will get and do that further. Yeah, so that's absolutely correct. But just mention that you will actually perform those actions on the application. All right, great. Another question around regression testing. So why do we need to do regression testing?
Okay, regression testing is important because we are testing a software. So if we find a defect, so we check the defect is solved or not. Okay, after resolve that defect, or we check if the defect is resolved, we check the defect is resolved and also check the other functionality. That is there any impact of this defect? Previous functionality is not getting any impact of this. Like, so regression testing is all about if you find, if you fixed any defect, or if you add any new module to your application, new functionality to your application. So in the end, we have to check all the previous modules. Like there is no impact of this new module are getting.
Absolutely, yes. So any change, so you have mentioned like any previous module or any defect fix. So any change basically in the code that has been done as part of the new functionality, performance improvement or defect fix doesn't impact the existing functionality. That's absolutely correct. Great. All right. So let's move on to the next one. And the next one is around RTM. So you have mentioned about RTM. So what exactly is RTM?
RTM is requirement test matrix, traceability matrix, requirement traceability matrix.
Yeah.
So it is all about test cases mapped with the requirement. So we ensure that by the help of RTM, we ensure that the 100% test coverage.
So you mentioned test cases mapped to the requirement.
Requirement.
Right. Requirement. Okay. Yeah. So RTM, requirement traceability matrix, that's absolutely correct. And so the purpose of RTM, you said to check whether the requirements have been
100% test coverage.
the test coverage is like 100% or all of the requirements have been covered. Yeah, that absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Yes. So that's the whole purpose of it. So usually, how do you create these RTMs, requirement traceability metrics? Have you saw any of these when you were a developer? How do you create, and how did people create their?
I just, for example, like there are in the internet, or one of my sir gives a demo of that. RTM is like first you have logging, you have a different scenario requirement by the client, that you have to login button, register button, and the forget button. Okay, so it is the requirement, and the test cases for that. The test cases for login button, and the test cases for register button, and the test cases of sign up button or forget button. So they all map together, and we write the test cases in the column, and we write the requirements in the row.
Right.
So we check whether the requirement is completed or not, whether the test case is written for login button or not. So we check by the RTM.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I mean, you can make it manually, but nowadays there are so many, test management tools provide all this functionality automatically out of the tool. And traceability metrics is not just from the requirement and test cases. There is another layer that you can add. So from the requirement, the mapping of the test cases to the requirement, and then during the execution there might be defects, right? So which test cases defects have arisen. So defects are then mapped to the test cases. So basically that gives the overall traceability of the requirement, test cases, defects, and there's forward and backward traceability. So there are tools like in Zephyr, which is the test management plugin within JIRA. So you will get automatic traceability metrics. So many people do it on the Excel sheet, which is very tedious work. If you do it from the tool which is available for you, that becomes really easy to capture the requirement traceability matrix. As far as the data that has been entered by your team is correct, as far as they have linked the test cases properly to the requirement and defects to the requirement. But your answer is absolutely correct. You can also add that it's not just about requirement and test cases, it can be extended as well, right? But traditionally it used to be, I mean, the core idea is to check that the coverage of the requirement is there. You haven't missed any of the requirement, right? So that gives you a a confidence that requirements are being covered and there are test cases to test those requirements. Okay. All right. So let's move on. What is the defect report or the bug report?
Okay. Defect report, like defect is known as the variance between actual and expected. Right? So it is a report. It gives the details of defect. It gives the full details about the defect. So it includes in their documents defect reports include in their documents like what kind of project you are working, like project name and defect ID, project name, and what kind of in which module or sub module you get a defect, and after that you know the phase, like which level of testing, in which level of testing you find a defect. And next is about severity and the priority of defect, and summary, description, and the last is status. The status should be new, open, and deferred, not defect. That's all about defect reporting.
Right. So can you name some of the defect management tools that you're aware of?
Bugzilla and Quality Center and issue tracker. The name I know.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I think all good. I mean, Bugzilla very few people use, very few companies use QC. Yes, I mean, nowadays mostly JIRA is being used by a lot of organizations because JIRA provides a built-in defect management within itself. And for test management, people use JIRA as well because there are test management plugins like Zephyr and X-Ray that you can use for the test management as well. So it's basically more of agile project management with defect management with test management. So everything is in JIRA now. But yeah, I mean, there are so many defect management tools. Bugzilla is by far, I mean, one of the open source and very popular one that that many companies use. Okay, great. That's great. And in terms of a defect, again, you mentioned about severity and priority. So who assigns the severity and priority?
Tester and developer both. I think so.
Okay. So severity, basically, what do you understand by severity when we say severity?
Severity is, it indicates the impact of defect on software application.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Great. So how big the impact is, right? So who knows the impact? Who knows the impact best?
Tester.
Yes. So tester assigns because tester knows the impact best. So testers assign severity. Priority is then more of a business or product owner, right? So like in what order I want to get these defects fixed, or the business wants to get these defects fixed, or product owner, whosoever is. The reason being, there could be very low severity defect, but it could be bad on the company reputation. Say, for example, like a big corporation website, and on the home page there is a spelling mistake, and there is not one, there are a couple of spelling mistakes. So it's not breaking as such anything, right? But in terms of that big organization, it's not good reputation, or it doesn't look good. So they have to, even though they are less severe defects, but they need to be fixed. So in that case, business might just go ahead, no, you have to fix these very quickly, right? So then those sort of less severe and high priority defect, that's how they occur. And there are different combinations that you can think of. Try to think of these scenarios, and you'll get to know. So great. I think that's all good. I think we are done with the basics of manual testing and software testing questions. Divya, I'll go with some of the projects that you have mentioned. Just want to understand a little bit. Can you explain some, just one maybe project that you have done in the past and what you've done there?
One of project is like I mentioned a school diary, which I have done in CDEC course. So a school diary is a communication. It is an application that communicates parents and teachers. Between the communication between the parents and teachers, like school want to give notice to parents, like there will be a holiday today, or there will be a holiday tomorrow. So this message notification as well as message goes to the parents. And also, if parents want to check whether the like attendance of the child, so they get the notification your child is present today.
Right.
This kind of application is there.
Great. Yeah. And this was done as part of your CDAC course, is it?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Was it an Android or iOS?
It's an Android, sir.
Android app. Okay. Yes. All right. Great. I think that's pretty much it for today. Divya, any questions for me before we get into the feedback? All right. Okay. So I think overall, Divya, pretty good. We'll start from the resume. I liked your resume. Very well formatted, and first page gives all the details that recruiter wants, including the certifications, which is very good, right? I mean, all the sections that I see in your resume, first page gives me a quick snapshot of what you are, what you have done, what your skills are, and what your certifications are, which is really good. Rest all information is on the second page, which is absolutely fine. Now, usually, I mean, in personal information, I have seen that people put all the information there, and you have also put there like everything, address and everything. I'm not sure if it is, a mandate sort of. I mean, when I was in India, I didn't used to put all this, but I'm not sure if this has been mandated now. Like I have been out of India for many years now.
Okay.
But usually this wasn't the requirement. I mean, only if it is asked, put it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
just a bare minimum personal information is good enough.
Sure.
Right. Companies don't hire you based on the personal information, what your address are. They will get to know your address when they give you the offer, and they'll ask for processing the salary and everything. So that's the only feedback, but otherwise your resume is very well formatted and very good.
Thank
This is just a feedback on the personal information thing, but
Yeah.
otherwise it's all good. Moving to the questions and the way you have answered, it's absolutely fantastic. Your understanding of the testing details, along with the actual testing that you will do and approach the testing, is
Yeah.
good, along with the concept. So I've asked very basic sort of questions in testing, with some hands-on, and you have been able to answer all of those very well. So in my opinion, just go ahead, keep reading a lot of more articles and books, and especially try to practice. Basically, go to any website, pick a functionality, try to write the test cases. Okay, try to execute something, and then try to write a defect report based on the templates that you see. Right, sign up for free trial of JIRA, and then try to raise a defect in JIRA. Okay, so all these things will help you to basically get more hands-on. All right, and along with the knowledge that you have, you should be very soon be able to crack the interview. I mean, I don't see any reason. With all this manual testing that you have said, overall, try to also start doing some sort of scripting, or Selenium with Java, or any sort of web automation.
Sure.
Add that as well. You do not need to be absolute expert in that field. Okay,
Yeah.
but the reason I am telling you is, nowadays, whenever the companies are hiring, they are looking for the person who is flexible enough and keen enough to learn different technologies and switch in the field wherever the requirement is. Right, and when we say testing, if you are rigid that you just want to do manual testing and you don't know anything about automation, that itself is a negative impression in your first round itself. So add something there, learn and add something there, even if it is just launching the browser, just setting up your development environment, launching the browser, and writing some simple test cases in Selenium. That will give you much confidence. Okay, and you can add that and start practicing, and rest of everything is absolutely fine. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to add that thing as well in your resume, and you'll be very soon. I think Indore is like a lot of IT companies now there, right?
Yes.
So you'll be absolutely fine. I mean, you'll be very soon be working somewhere. Okay, so that's pretty
Thank
much
you
it
so
from my
much.
side.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Can you tell me one thing about my communication? Like the concept I told you are understood by you?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
So see, I mean, communication, like English is not our first language. You need to understand that, right?
Yeah.
Do not stress too much about getting stuck when you are communicating. You will pick it up over the period of time. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just a language. Like,
Yes.
we have our own language, and people who are born here, or English speaking people can't speak Hindi. Like, we are
Yeah.
we our native language is Hindi, and we can't speak English properly like the way they speak. So it's just a language. Whatever you are trying to articulate and explain, I have understood all of it, right? So that's absolutely fine. And over the period of time, when you will talk, or when you go into an organization, you'll keep talking, you'll go into the meetings, so you'll be refining each and every day. So that's absolutely fine. I didn't find any issues in understanding what you are trying to say, and neither will any of the project people, or neither will, you know, your clients for whom you will be working will be, you know, able to understand perfectly fine. That's absolutely, you know, everyone understands Indian English. Okay, just make a note of it. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions, or else we'll
no, sir.
All right. Okay, cool. It was nice talking to you, Divya. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity for a mock interview. Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Thanks, Divya. Have a nice day.